Are you at a crossroads in your UX career? Or maybe you're trying to enter the UX field and you're not quite sure how to do it or where to turn to next. Well, today's episode is just the one for you, and I have the perfect guest, Mel. Now, Meltem is a UX career coach, and she's got years and years of experience as a UX researcher for the likes of Glovo, and she's even been a UX research manager. So she's got tons of experience in this field, and at the moment she's helping many around the world. So enjoy this episode and listen carefully, because she shares many useful and really worthwhile tips to help you make that next career jump in your UX career. Okay, so we have a very cool guest on today. I'm happy to introduce Mel to the podcast. I'm really happy to have you on. We've been in contact for a while now, and you've also been, as I mentioned in the introductory episode to season 2, you've been a super awesome moral support recently for what I've been going through. So super happy to have you on.
So glad to be here as well. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here to have this conversation.
No problem at all. So to do the normal thing, maybe if you want to introduce yourself, so who you are, what you're doing now, just a bit about you so our listeners can get to know you better.
Amazing, thanks. Well, I'm originally from Istanbul, Turkey. I left my native country, and I've been for the longest time based in Barcelona, Spain now. I love the city, so if anyone watching this session wants to visit, say hi, that'd be amazing. I love biking. I have a Brompton, so that's my main mode of transportation. And when it comes to, of course, the topic of this podcast, the focus in terms of profession, I'm a UX career coach. We can, of course, later on talk more about it. But I have a decade-long leadership experience in UX, and I have in the last 4 months transitioned to do other things as well, like teaching, facilitating, giving workshops. But doing career coaching is central to my work now. So that's how I spend most of my time.
That's cool. Yeah, that's how I came across you on LinkedIn. I noticed, I think it was a connection of mine. They shared or liked something that you posted, and I noticed,
Yeah,
that
that was a long time ago. That's
it's
true.
a while
I
ago.
always felt like we were always connected, but when you retrace the origins, I think that could very well be.
Yeah, I can't remember now actually how long ago it was, but anyway, that's a story for another day. But I'm actually interested. So you mentioned before you're from Istanbul. I've never been to Istanbul. I've been to Turkey, but I've been to, is it Marmaris? Maybe I,
Oh, Marmaris, that's
yeah,
also
okay.
nice in the south.
Yeah, it's a bit more touristy, I think, like summer tourism. But just out of curiosity, like what made, if you want to share it, obviously, what made you want to leave Istanbul? Was it for just job opportunity, career growth, or and why Barcelona?
Oh yeah, good one. No, it's perfectly okay. Maybe it inspires someone. So I was actually very young when I left Istanbul. I was only 14 there. Can you believe
Oh
it?
wow,
I
30.
was so young. I'm 34 now, so I've spent over
Okay.
2 decades abroad.
Wow.
It was an educational opportunity. I got a
Mhm.
scholarship to represent my
Ah,
country first in the US, and then I went to a boarding school in Italy, very close to where
ah,
you are now,
wow.
United World College of the Adriatic. So it was
Ah,
mostly my study experiences and then the
okay.
jobs that I took. I met my partner in the Netherlands when I was doing my research master there.
Wow.
And then we chose to move to Spain and build a life here. Now we have two
Wow.
little children. We
Nice.
have a family neighborhood life in Barcelona. It
That's
is home for me.
nice. That's cool. So you've had an international upbringing and like experience, which I imagine also enriches you as a person and also adds to your job as well, what you're doing now.
Oh, it does. I mean, it's like I don't know if anyone listening had read or you read the Culture Map, the book by Aaron
Mhm.
Meyer, but
I've
indeed
heard of
that's
them.
one of the most brilliant books, and it maps onto my life experience as well. Like today, I have clients from Hong Kong,
Oh,
clients from Poland, Argentina, of course, from Spain, Turkey, Italy, France. So
mm,
it doesn't mean that I am an expert in all these cultures, but
no.
it does mean that there is space for that, like cultural awareness,
Yeah,
recognizing the unique differences in people's perception of their success or their needs. So all those things are very, very relevant.
exactly. Yeah, that's because it's not as vast as yours in terms of the countries you've been to, but I left the UK 12 years ago, spent some time in Germany and then Italy. And even though I've only been to two countries, through those countries, I've met also people from all over the world. And yeah, like now I feel that it helps me a lot also as a UX researcher, because also the people I've interviewed, the people I've spoken to are from different backgrounds. And when you're a bit more used to speaking, getting to know people from different backgrounds, it kind of prepares you for when you do meet someone from a different background in your work and when you're interviewing someone, because you just have a better idea maybe how to position questions and also the type of responses to expect. So for our listeners, if you are thinking about traveling or having a new experience, and I highly recommend it.
No, I agree with you. And you say you don't have a vast experience, but I think you do, because just the fact that you've been in places where the status quo doesn't apply, you then
Yeah,
begin to think, oh, maybe there's more than one way to think about it. Maybe there's
exactly.
different ways to ask these questions. So the fact that you're open, it really, fosters the growth mindset, and that's where the journey begins. So I'm very proud of your journey as well. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I'm here to big you up, not me. So
So I'll do this podcast with.
if you want. Cool. Okay, so now let's move to your career. So you obviously I mentioned I think yeah at the beginning that you're a UX researcher and obviously then more towards UX career coach. So how did you get
Mhm.
to where you are now in terms of your career? Like what led to what you're doing now?
Okay, let me walk backwards because that
Sure.
might be just a little easier to
Hmm.
to follow the steps. So, like what I was saying, in the last 4 months, I do teach at a local university, La Salle. So I'm a professor there. I do facilitation workshops and whatnot to companies internationally as well. More coming up on that. But career coaching is the key. So that's what I'm doing. I call it UX career coaching. We'll maybe discuss that later more. But
Yeah.
I apply the UX principles that I've
Okay.
learned and used over the course
Sure.
of my career to deal with our careers as a product that we're
Yeah.
studying. So that's the whole method. Before that, my most recent full-time job was at Glovo.
Okay.
I'm sure you know it's from Italy, from
Yeah.
Spain, and many countries. Quick, Q-commerce company, food at the center. I was there for almost 4 years, both as a
Okay.
staff UX researcher and UX research manager, scaling
Um,
the team up and down as well. And
awesome.
before that, I had the opportunity to work in consultancy settings as well, big and small. So I was in pharmaceutical, auto industry, intergovernmental organizations, and many
Mhm.
others. It gave me a bit of exposure to different sectors and sort of ways of working.
Nice, nice, excellent. And what got you interested in UX research? Were you doing something before UX
Yeah,
research?
I
Yeah.
was. No,
Okay.
that's a very good one. In life, Dale, it happened to me this way. Many people describe it that way. Maybe it applies to you, where your career path mingles with your personal path.
Yeah.
People you meet in your personal
Yeah,
settings also
absolutely.
inform the questions you ask. So I was a journalist. I was an investigative
Oh,
journalist. That was my first full-time job. And
sure.
if you look back, it is true that, as a journalist, the kind of questions I ask, the way
Hmm.
I gather knowledge, the storytelling also informed my approach to UX. And the personal part is where, my partner, he is a computer engineer. He's a release manager. So through him as well, I was exposed to the tech world. And I began to understand this was not just from one day to the next I woke up and I suddenly had a revelation, but rather it was like, okay, so people who build technologies for our societies,
Mm,
they have usually technical backgrounds, right? Which is
sure.
great. We need those codes to be written, we need that design to be executed.
Mm,
But I felt like for people like me with social science background, I've studied
mm,
human development. So a lot
okay.
of it was clinical psychology, some of
Mm,
it was evolutionary biology, but most of it was cultural anthropology. So I felt
mhm.
like there was a need for people with my background to
Yeah.
come in and make sure that what we're setting out to do in
Mm,
tech is actually gonna help solve people's pain points, is
yeah.
mindful of people's needs, priorities, lifestyles. So I felt like I could make a unique contribution to the
Mm,
tech world. And yeah, this is how it all, of course, started. Of course, part
mm,
of it was the transition. Part of it was me
Yeah.
taking some courses. We can talk more about that. That could be an inspiration, but
Sure.
that's how it all happened a little bit.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I agree with the point that more often than not, it does kind of go in line with your personal growth and your personal development. Also, me, when I moved to Italy, I kind of knew what I wanted to do, but I didn't know how, like, what to call it. Like, I liked dealing with people, so I had some experience in teaching, also some experience in customer care. You could call it
Hmm.
customer experience as well. So I liked dealing with people, seeing also their growth, going from point A to point B, and that kind of journey that person, student, customer would go through, and kind of helping them along that. But there were also some elements of teaching and of customer care that I didn't enjoy. Um,
Hmm.
so I was kind of looking for my place, and then through like meeting people, my personal growth, traveling, experiencing different cultures, I came across a few people that I now call my friends, and they introduced me to the world of UX and that this
Oh,
UX user experience, customer experience research exists. And I was super happy because I could put a name to it, and then that's where I started to delve a bit deeper into UXR. So yeah, so thanks for
love
sharing also your
Yeah,
experience.
no, you too. I didn't know that much of your journey into
Yeah,
UX research as well. That's really cool.
I didn't want to like take the limelight from you, but it was just to kind
No,
of add
it's
also
not.
for the
It's
listeners.
really great because it really is the case. Like when I don't know about you, I am assuming that we're more or less in the same generation. When
Mm,
I was studying at the university, there wasn't this notion of
oh,
UX research. There was market research for
yeah,
sure. People studied, social sciences or other disciplines. So
yeah,
it wasn't like today. Maybe someone goes to university and they can, study or they
exactly.
can get a certification. So it's just like you and I, we sort of found our way.
Exactly, yeah. I think it was HCI. I can't remember, but it was more, yeah, it was more
Human computer
technology based.
interaction.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, this was, yeah, when I was at that university college age, it's like, yeah, 15 years ago now. So yeah, it's kind of moved on now. UX research didn't exist as it is now. So
As it is now, yeah.
yeah, so there was, yeah, like you say, market research, a market analyst, that was more, and that didn't really appeal to me, like how it sounded. But yeah, later on, UXR was born, well, born in the name that it is now. So
Exactly. It evolved into being what it
evolved,
is.
yeah, that's the right word. Cool. So that's obviously your UXR experience and journey and etc. Obviously, you've mentioned a few times that you now do UX career coaching. So where did the
Mhm.
inspiration to that come from? Like, what was the bridge from being a UXR manager at Glovo to becoming a UX career coach? What happened?
I love it. Well, a lot happened. As you know, market is still evolving and
Mm,
we've gone through major changes
mm,
from Singapore to San Francisco. No, we've experienced a
yeah,
lot of layoffs,
yeah,
experienced a lot of reorgs. Other sort of changes in the way that we understand our role with the Gen AI, with democratization efforts. Many things happened to many people. And
yeah.
I was also an active participant. I was also observing that. But the reason why, or let's say how it all came to being,
Hmm.
is that I came to understand gradually, again, not like from one day to the next,
No, sure.
where there was a need for a space for UX professionals, especially UX researchers, to
Mm,
start with, to have an opportunity to think of their careers,
mm,
their super talents, where they can apply, their urgent needs, their immediate opportunities. We normally tend to think, traditionally speaking, people are looking for a job. You
mhm,
have this title, you have this salary, this is where you work. So people identify, I work in such and such company, this is
mhm,
my identity. But I think this is my observation, which led to my current path today, Dale,
mm,
that when there is a situation where you get a promotion today and
mm,
tomorrow you're deactivated, you can't even enter to the drive, you
mm,
begin to understand, maybe the relationship I thought I had with my current company is not the way I thought, it's not as constant, it's not as reliable. So my point with that is I've explored and learned by many people around me, even if I wasn't technically laid off, by the way, but I also
mm,
went through major changes from a very big team to a very small one,
yeah.
that we really need the space to really deal with our careers, not just
Mm.
just something that happens on its own, but
Yeah.
something that we have self-awareness and agency, and we set goals that expand beyond the goal of the company, the
Mm.
goal of this project, and so on. Ideally, there's some, people that are so lucky that there's perfect alignment between themselves and their company, and then their managers can act as coaches. That's great.
Sure.
But what I'm trying to do, which I think there was the value for, which is why I went in, is that people need to cultivate different answers, a different approach to their careers, some support in this learning process. And I felt like what a great opportunity for me to leverage my experience, both as someone that done a lot of years of UX research, but also managed to
Mm.
sort of apply my learnings into coach people so that they can become the best version of themselves. So this is a little bit of how
Nice.
it came into being.
That's cool. That's cool. Also, it's nice that you saw the challenges that there are and that there were in the UX field, because the challenges continue to be there, and probably with the ups and downs of the job market as well, there is that need for people to focus on their career and focus on to overcome those challenges, but also to enrich themselves and also just to add to their skill set as well, and to have that guide as well. Like you say, sometimes you don't get that in your company. Like, for example, in my previous job, I was a
Mhm.
sole UX researcher. All of my colleagues, well, none of my colleagues had any background in research. Maybe, well, it's probably a lie. One of my UX designer colleagues had a
Mhm.
bit of experience in research, but in the other departments, and before they came along, there was a lack of research experience and maturity. So that can be isolating slightly if you do want to have that coaching and that growth for your career, because maybe you don't have the guide and you don't have someone to tell you, yeah, this is the right way to go, or this is the right way to go. So it's nice you
That's right. No,
saw that.
I really appreciate that. And let me also be clear. I mean, the way I approach it is that sure, I have my experience, I have my knowledge, I can bring exercises and opportunities to have questions that will
Mm,
be relevant. But it's like people are the drivers of
yeah,
this process. They are the expert on themselves, the life they want to
sure.
live. So it is more of accompanying them to create a
Yeah.
space, a safe space, because within your company you're telling your story, Dale, that you were the
Mm,
only UX researcher. There was a designer person that did some research, but anyway, like, even if there was a team of 10, 15, 20 researchers, one can still say that the conversations you can have with your manager or the
mm,
teams, there could be a conflict of interest or concern. Like, can I really say this raw truth about myself? Would
yeah.
my performance review still go well if I said this or if I done that? But with a
Yeah.
coach, it's very different because everything is very raw. Like, we can talk about
Yeah.
our fears, we can talk about our concerns, we can talk about goals in ways that we're not very worried how
Mm,
that
mm,
fits with the team structure
yeah.
or what the company aims for. So this is really something for people uniquely for
Mm,
their careers, because people are working until they are 70 or even longer. Like, it's
yeah.
we're talking about you spending many more hours of your
Mm,
day, of your week, of your month, year, whatever, doing this. So you might as well be more intentional, you might as well enjoy yourself a little bit, get better
exactly.
results. So this is what it's
Yeah.
about, basically.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it's a good point. And in your role as well, you don't have, like you touched on, you don't have that vulnerability to talk about your vulnerabilities in your role, your skills, or just things you feel you need to work on. You can in some cases, but you've got the pressure
Mhm.
to perform, and maybe that's in the back of your mind, like, oh, I can't bring that up, I can't talk about that because, like you say, will it be brought up in my next performance review? You got just got that pressure to reach the
Mhm.
business goals and to reach your objectives, because obviously that's your
Exactly. Because you're there for a reason. You're there to
exactly,
perform. You need to have an ROI so
yeah,
that the company, whatever they pay you, whatever you deliver to them, there is the right math, which is understandable.
yeah, yeah,
We as
absolutely,
researchers, I believe we need to be business minded. Like, there is nothing wrong with that. It's just that that setup takes away from a real need from professionals like you and me, so that we can, build that, cultivate that intentional space for our careers.
cool, yeah, that's true, absolutely true. If anyone does want to get into this career coaching, how does it work? Like, what is the process? What is involved? And then maybe we can speak about who they can reach out to.
Okay, amazing. No, I'll share this. Of course, if
Yeah.
anybody wants to consider working together, that's great. We can see if there's a click. But in case they want to work on their own, or
Okay.
partnering up with a colleague, this could be relevant information
Yeah.
on its own. So I can share with you how I do this so
Sure.
far.
Sounds
A
good.
large group of my collaborators in coaching space, people I work with, come from UX research, but also some of them are designers, some of them are
Okay.
data managers, engineers, and PMs even. So when I say UX career coaching, Dale, it's not just only that it applies to UX professionals, but rather the way we work is inspired by my experience in UX. But that being said, what I do is I do this free non-attachment style discovery calls with
Okay.
people, and that's really for us to understand if we can work together, if there can be good vibes. The reason
Sure.
why I find that is so important is because before there can be made any commitment from me towards them, or them towards this whole coaching experience, we need to see if there is a match. There's really not an easy
Mm.
way to separate my character, my personality, my knowledge
Yeah.
from the actual exercises we're doing and the way we're working. So
Mhm.
first step is really ensuring that there is the match. The other thing that is important that I also like to tell in these discovery calls, Dale, is that I work with subscription models.
Okay.
And the way I've learned to work in this monthly subscriptions is that if I ask people, which I did, it was all part of the experiment. No, let's do like 10 session packages, 6 session packages, whatever. It feels like a lot of commitment for people. They don't know if this is going to be working out for them well, if this
Mm.
rhythm is going to be useful for them. So the way that I do this subscription thing, it's that the commitment is for 1 month. We can continue, we can have a pause, we can get back. It all is like there is that agency, the commitment sort of levels well with the experience you have, so you can decide on the
Okay.
go. And also that when you say coaching and then you talk about sessions, people think that, okay, so the value that'll come from coaching will come uniquely from the sessions, but it's
Yeah.
actually very far from the truth. We do come to the sessions very prepared with the topics in mind, with the priorities, but I care a lot about async communication so
Mm.
that the questions for reflection, some co-creation exercises, whatever we set out to do based on the knowledge we're gathering on people's strengths, where they need to level up, the goals that we eventually set, there is that async experimentation, reflection, knowledge gathering, and whatnot. So that's also a big part of building momentum. It's a big part of learning something new, thinking in different ways, gathering data. So there's also like diary studies, so to speak. So that's a little bit of what we do. I love to start with that self-awareness part boosted up. And it's more than saying, oh, I like to talk to people, or I learn, 4 languages. I want to really go deep to really understand deeply the drivers, the motivators, like how people understand themselves, the stories they want to tell themselves.
Mm.
And we then juxtapose that with the goals that they have. A lot
Yeah.
of people are like, I want to have a job, I want to have this. That's
Mm.
great. But one of the benefits of working with a coach in the way that I do it is to be able to distinguish what we can control and what we cannot. So for instance, if the company you're working with, if they have a budget freeze, if they have a reorg, if they suddenly
Mm.
want to ghost you can't control that. But there
Yeah.
is a certain set of things you can control to build your niche, to build your reputation, level up in some areas that you need to know more. There's a lot of things like networking, building relationships that you can control.
Mm.
And so that's why we make sure that the goal is written in a language that is, empowering and based on the things we can do. So
Yeah.
with that, in each session, we set small goals.
Okay.
We have async follow-ups and exercises. That's a little bit of how that works out.
Nice. Sounds super interesting. So maybe something I look into as well. That's really cool. Thanks for also sharing how that works as well. And if any of the listeners do have any questions as well, then if they reach out to me, I'm happy to send them through to you. Or
Oh, please,
yeah,
please. That's a great growth opportunity. Like we know customer feedback, no? Because sometimes I get a
exactly.
lot of questions like, I didn't think about formulating it that way. So there's also a great learning opportunity for me.
Exactly, exactly. Perfect, perfect. So, who is his career coaching for? So, like maybe just from my experience, just hearing that word, maybe you think I'm looking for a job, so that's for me. But from what you've explained now, it could also be open to other people in different
Oh
positions.
yeah.
So,
Oh
okay,
yeah. I was gonna be like hallelujah. But
Yeah.
yeah. It's not just my brand or what I offer is not just like, are you looking for a job? Let's
Yeah,
work. It's
because
really
that
not
can
that.
sometimes be the
It
appeal, but
can.
also you
I
just
mean, yes, I will be very transparent. I'll be very honest, Dale. Usually people think of coaching or alternative solutions to their problems when they
mm,
hit rock bottom,
yeah.
when something that they've been experimenting alone isn't working.
Mm,
That's where like it's a last remedy, right? And it's fair. And I have
mm,
indeed clients across the spectrum. So some of them are in managerial roles, some of them are senior
okay.
professionals, some of them are juniors. So, and
Okay.
some of them are career transitioners from academia or other kinds of research that you were saying earlier in the session.
Sure.
So that's indeed a group. However, I also have folks that are currently employed. Actually, that's
Okay.
more than 50% of them,
Oh
to
wow.
be fair. And the reason why we're working together is that, for instance, some of them, like something is off.
Mm,
How they're doing their work, where they are working, what they're doing is not satisfying them. They have growth needs, but they don't know what their next step is.
mm,
Um, so they're like people who are unemployed right now might think that, you know, the world is so beautiful and
mhm.
happy once they're employed, which is partially true. Of course, you know, we want to bring food to
It's one less
table.
stress, yeah.
Exactly, one less thing to worry about. But there's also true that to get your career satisfaction before you make a major change, or as you
Mm,
seek promotions and so on, you might also seek this support. So I have people that are, like I said, transitioning, and also, you know, they want more impact into their work. They want to, you know, do things a little differently and not sure, and or they are sure exactly. Like there is also clients that are amazing. Like I want exactly that, and we figure out different ways to explore that and execute it
sure.
in a way. So there is really a variety of people that come.
Ah, that's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, like I said before, maybe, and also you explained it too, that generally people reach out for help when they do hit rock bottom or they don't know what to
Oh
do.
yes,
But it's also good
exactly,
to think about maybe if you're in a role now of how you can get more satisfaction from your career, how you can level up, even if you're in a role, but
exactly,
then you're better prepared for the
exactly.
future. So,
Or like even I just am a strong believer there that if you have an increased self-awareness, you
mm,
can better read, you know, your where you need to grow, where you have super strengths, what setups are better for you. That's just in and itself an extremely valuable thing, because you can
yeah,
then position yourself better in your organization. You can seek
yeah,
more entrepreneurial opportunities in between companies, or in between opportunities. You can be more proactive, you can explore
yeah,
better with more confidence, more curiosity, more resilience. It's absolutely relevant. But I will also say one more thing. We talked about, you know, a variety of different kinds of people where this
mm,
coaching thing could work, but I know that there's one key group where it doesn't work, and it's fine too. You know, it's not for everyone. I'm a strong believer that your career is a big part of your identity.
mhm,
Life isn't all about work. That's not what I'm saying. Like I have a family, I have my hobbies, I
yeah,
go out, like these are fun things. But if someone is approaching to working as something just to pay the rent, just to
mm,
pay the bills, and that's all there is, then probably we're not a strong match,
sure,
because I want for you to want more than that.
yeah, okay,
You know, so
that
that's
makes sense.
also very.
No, no, absolutely, yeah. Like there has to be a motivation behind it. If it, like you say, if it's only to pay the bills or to do the necessary things, then yeah, maybe you're not going to put the attention, the effort, the mental energy that it
Absolutely.
needs to make that step or that improvement. Because yeah,
Absolutely.
because also you'll
Yeah,
take maybe if you're only doing it for rent, you'll take the first job that comes along without really thinking about is it right for me, for my growth, for what I'm doing now,
exactly.
and then you lead,
Exactly.
yeah, and then
Yeah,
maybe you
a lot of it
quantify
is
what
like
you
looking
learn.
inward. Yeah. No, no, you're right. Like a lot of it is
Yeah.
looking inward. A lot of it is to be intentional,
Mm,
and yeah, you said something so nice, because you need to be motivated, right? It's
yeah.
a partnership. You need to put some work. I sort of make sure that, you know, I have people I see once a month, or people I see
Mm,
twice a month, or three times a month. So the
yeah.
exercise we do, the intensity, the frequency we meet,
Yeah.
is very tailored. It's a unique one-to-one experience.
Yeah.
But that being said, even if it's put at bare minimum, it's still some effort, because
Yeah.
if the person doesn't want to put the work, me alone, there's very little I can change in their lives. So it
Of
really has
course.
to
Yeah.
come with motivation and some commitment.
Exactly. Exactly. Because also, if you're only doing it for the immediate gains or yeah, rent or whatever, you're not also
Absolutely.
thinking about the future and what will happen next because life moves forward, things happen, your circumstances change as a person, health, family, etc. So it's something that I always think of as well, like how can I also add more foundations now? How can I build a platform now, not only for my next job, but in 10 years' time, what I'm learning now, what I'm doing now, so personal projects or whatever that might be. How can that
Hmm.
help me in the future and pay me back in the future as well, to be happier or to give more to my family or myself personally? So, yeah, that's just a personal viewpoint. But
No, I fully agree, and I think that's very satisfying. The way I set the stage in earlier sessions too, in that we're not in denial if it's a pain point to get a promotion or to get a job or whatever it is
yeah,
we're seeking on a face value. That means that we need to set goals that deliver results in short term and mid term. So we
yeah,
are not in denial, but we need to balance that out with long term thinking. So not
exactly.
everything is short term. Not everything
Yeah,
is reviewing a cover letter, reviewing a CV, doing
yeah,
mock interviews. There is some work that we're doing,
yeah,
long term. So we are aware of your strengths. What's the vision you have for your career? And what's the mission you have? Like all those things that make you unique, we gotta build those up,
yeah.
and that's very important. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Also, because those things you will give out in your persona, like
Hmm.
what do you want to get out of the career? What do you care most about? That will, and also in your interviews when you're preparing for interviews or preparing a project, right, whatever that may be for an interview, like a homework, that will come across your goals, what you care about the most, what your vision is for
Absolutely.
yourself and your future. If you don't really have that, maybe you'll get the role, but maybe in a year's time you'll find yourself back in the same position with the same
Hmm.
problems you had before. There'll always be problems, but you might find yourself back in the same position and you've not really made any progression despite having a job for the past year or two. So yeah. So yeah, it's
Exactly.
always good to dive into those things. So before we maybe wrap up, because it's been quite a long recording this one, which is good. I'm happy.
Yeah, like
Um,
really engaging conversation.
I like to thank you. Maybe just some like general advice for our listeners. I always like to finish the recordings with maybe just some advice that the person I'm interviewing would like to share, just generally for, it doesn't
Yeah,
have to be
yeah.
specific
No,
for you,
that's
but
great. That Thank you so much, because I was also thinking of like, okay, I would love it if I connect to new people through this podcast, but I might not as well. So I was thinking, what is a value that this podcast in itself can bring? And indeed, I have two things I want to say, which
yeah,
especially for more junior UX researchers might not be so apparent.
yeah,
My observation in the field, Dale, is that junior UX researchers in general tend to be more keen on improving their hard skills. Oh,
mm,
I don't know how to use this tool, let me use that tool. I don't know how to use
yeah.
this method, let me use that. I have nothing against that. Of
No, no, it's
course,
important.
we'll keep updating ourselves, keep learning new tools, new ways of working, new methods and whatnot. That's clear. But there's two things that my career has shown me, that if not enough attention is paid
Mm,
from junior moving upwards, that could really have a high cost.
yeah,
So one thing is about framing. It's about being positive,
mm,
especially in today's market. We were discussing earlier, there are still layoffs or there isn't a lot of job opportunities out there. It's so easy to have this like pessimistic mindset. It's so easy. It's so
yeah,
human.
yeah.
Like, I wouldn't
We've
even
all
judge it.
done it.
We've all done it. It comes naturally. It's part
Yeah.
of what it is to be a human. Nothing wrong with it. But I do still see and observe that being positive is a decision to be made.
Mm,
And it also comes with, like, for junior folks, like understanding what you can control and exploring ways to level up and grow while being positive, because every time you go to an interview or in an event to network officially or otherwise, you bring your energy with you and you're
mm,
giving subconscious messages, so to speak, to people around you, like, hey, is this someone I want to work with? Is this
yeah.
someone who trusts themselves? So,
Mm,
negative experiences we all go through, but it's so important to, understand the silver lining,
yeah.
having an optimistic, not naive, but being optimistic is key. And the other thing that I believe is so important is relationship building.
Mm.
It happens in some coaching clients too, especially in more junior parts. Like, no, I don't like networking. I don't like relationship building. I want to get jobs. I want to get opportunities based on my knowledge, based on my strength, not because I know such and such. And clearly, nepotism is not, my
No.
lesson here. That's not what it's about. But I
No.
think one thing people need to understand, the earlier the better, is that relationship building really, really matters, because
Mm.
literally no one I met in tech works in isolation. You
No.
are part of a team that
Yeah.
delivers a solution to end users, be it
Yeah.
a business or a end user like a customer, or wherever you work, whatever you do. So relationship building is really about building synergies, setting
Mm.
common goals, understanding what people care about, so it becomes less of a transactional thing, but more of building a relationship based on mutual interest and caring about what that person needs. And maybe you can, who knows, introduce them to someone that could be an interesting meet for
Mm.
them, or you
Exactly.
can give them an alternative thing to learn about that would be valuable to them, or vice versa. So
Yeah.
relationship building is so important for your career
Absolutely.
development and cannot be made secondary.
No, absolutely. Yeah, no, I agree. And like you say, it's not nepotism, but when you do grow your network, it does open up opportunities. That's why I found almost all my jobs through my connections on LinkedIn, people I know. Also, if you do already know somebody, it just gives you that head start if you do go through an interview process, because the interviewer or the hiring manager, etc., already has an idea of you. They know your personality, what you like. You're not starting from scratch, which there's more of a pressure because you've got half an hour, 45 minutes to make a big impression to someone. If they already know a
Hmm.
bit more about you, what you stand for, how you work, etc., it just give you that head start. And it's not about like you're not going into a competition with the other candidates, but it does put you in a better position. And also, when you do start the job, you're going to be working with someone you're already familiar with, which again helps you start that role in a better way as well. So that's
I
just
love it.
personal
No,
experience.
that I fully align with, and I'm gonna tell you a crazy story. It's a true
Go ahead.
story, but I will, remove the names for confidentiality reasons.
Sure, sure.
So there was a job as a head of UX research role that I applied and actually got the role. I chose to
Mm.
stay back in day at Glovo, but nevertheless, the relationship during that application process was so good with the
Yeah.
hiring manager. I even met the CMO and CPO down the line through that
Mm.
process, that we are still in touch.
Yeah.
My ex direct reports at Glovo, I referred them. They are now working together. Anytime we face a challenge, we want each other's angles.
Yeah.
We are still in touch. We had calls, at least 4 or 5 of them, after the interview process was over. So I'm gonna even be very bold and ask people to think of the job application process and
Yeah.
those interviews not as an end in itself to get the job, but like
No.
no matter what happens, whether it's a yes or a no, that person's there. You're together in an industry. Why don't you continue that relationship? Maybe
Yeah.
down the line, in 5 years, you build something together, or you help each other, or you work in another organization that is not this one. So, I really ask people to open their doors.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It can be hard because maybe if you are like in a position where you need a job and it's another no, it can be
Sure.
difficult to be positive towards the company or the people that are interviewing you because you think, oh, but it's a good point. It's something that I need to do probably more as well, is just view it, even if you don't get the job, it's an open door. And maybe in the future, when you grow, get more experience, or vice versa, the company gets more maturity, or whatever the issue was
Hmm.
that prevented you from getting that role. You don't know. That door was opened. It might open again in the future, especially if it's a job you really want to get one day, or a company or an industry you really want to get into. Because also through them you might get offered other opportunities at other companies that are in a similar
Yeah,
field. So yeah, view it like that. View it as
absolutely.
an opportunity, and it goes back to your first point about how you frame yourself, your your career,
Exactly.
your position at the moment. So it's all about that mental framing.
Exactly. Because, like, this is, by the way, another quote from me, but from a coach that I deeply admire, Kenneth Berger. He's an executive coach.
Mhm.
Maybe we can talk and also drop a link of his.
Yeah.
And when he says, like, when you get a no, Dale, what you're getting is no for the way that you asked for this
Mhm.
very thing
Mm.
right now. So that no is not eternal. that
Mhm.
no is not, forever for you in anything that you do. That
Yeah.
no could be very well understood and can, become a yes at
Mm.
another time, asking it differently in different ways from different people. So, even having a framing on what that no means by being
Um,
optimistic and building relationships can take us far.
Absolutely, absolutely. Completely 100% agree. Thanks for sharing that quote as well.
Amazing. No, it's great.
So cool. Thank you, Mel. It's been a pleasure to have this probably almost an hour, I don't know, 45 minutes to have to chat with you. Find out more about you, also what makes you tick, and also going a bit deeper into this UX career coaching. I hope it's been beneficial also for our listeners, and I'm sure it has been. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dale, for creating the space. I also learned a lot from your experiences, and I think it also helped our relationship building too. And
Of
I hope it
course.
inspires the people that listen to us.
Yeah, I hope so too. And yeah, like you say, it's built our relationship a bit more. I'm looking forward to staying in contact. So I'll drop in for our listeners, I'll drop in, or watchers, I'll drop in Mel's LinkedIn link, profile link on all of the promotions for this podcast. And also the I think the quote at the end you mentioned, I'll drop in here
Exactly,
as
Kenneth
well.
Burgers. I'll also do that. Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.